Hey guys, this is Danny Boy. This is a new playthrough. I'll be playing a Berserker, and this is co-op. I am playing with my friend Anthrosaurus. This is also post-commentary, so this is not live com. So hopefully this will be a bit more educational than my normal stuff. But I've gotten my engineer to Act 2 now, as you would have seen from my previous video if you watched it. I will definitely be continuing to play him, but I took a break because I had the opportunity to play with my friend, so playing with Anthrosaurus. Thus far, I rather like the Berserker. It's a fun melee class. I love their charge mechanic. Basically, they have kind of a rage mechanic where once you fill up the bar from just doing damage, you have guaranteed chance to crit, which is really, really fun. I respec a lot with this character in the early levels. I don't really know how I want to play him. I still don't really know how I want to play him. But I do know that in co-op, I want to tank. Basically, I want to keep enemies off of Anthrosaurus. This is her first time playing the game, and the series for that matter, so she's kind of just learning how to play the game. And regardless, I would just prefer if I melee to be able to tank for the ranged people. So I start out dual wielding. I'll eventually try two-handers, which I do really like because they have a AoE component. They just kind of cleave enemies. You can hit multiple enemies in an arc with two-handers. I will eventually throw on a shield, though probably not in these early episodes. This is Elite. We are playing on Elite. Being melee on Elite is a lot more dangerous than being ranged on Elite, so I do wind up quaffing potions just all the time. I do really miss my engineer's healing bot, which kind of sucks. But I wind up speccing in the early levels. I try out just this red fury cleave thing. I eventually try out the first ice attack that shoots out a cone of frost, and I kind of wind up settling on using... see, this is all rather new to me, so I'm not super familiar in all the skills. I do eventually pause and kind of show them, so we'll get to that later. I wind up settling on the kind of Shadow Wolf tree that focuses a lot on lifesteal and just healing. And see, I'm not totally sure how I want to spec this character yet either, because two-handers and stuff tend to focus more on strength, whereas dual-wielding claws tend to focus more on dex. Oh, and here we go. So, Eviscerate is a cone attack. It makes enemies bleed, and you can improve it by making the bleed more effective in a shorter period of time and improving the arc of the attack. But I am already now spec'd into this Frost Breath thing, which really, at least at the time, it didn't seem to do very much damage just at level 1, which isn't that strange, considering you can level up to level 15, but just out of the box, didn't seem to be that effective, so I do wind up abandoning this as well fairly quickly. There's also a passive, I think it's called Frenzy. I will show that eventually as well, where you get lifesteal when you crit, and I just put a point in it early on just for when I'm berserking or raging or whatever it's called, just for a little more survivability, a little more self-healing, make me a little tankier. But if you pour points into Dex, Dex actually increases your chance to crit. So pouring points into Dex, pouring points into Frenzy, you crit more often, and you get lifesteal whenever you crit. So I could definitely see that being useful. Just getting gear eventually that has lifesteal on it can be really useful. Getting gear that has mana steal on it in this game is phenomenal. Makes a huge difference in how often you can use your skills, because mana pools, especially with base focus, are not very high. So I found this spell, which immediately intrigued me because I love pets, and it's animal handling. Basically, it's a passive, and it increases pet and minion power and reduces the time it takes for the pet to go to town. You can have one rank of it on at a time, and it's just a passive benefit. I like that. There's a few different passive spells in the game that add to the variety of spells and are just a nice little bonus. Oh, and a unique. Yes, you find legendaries, uniques, whatever they're called, the golden ones, and just rares and sets and whatever, way more frequently in co-op than you do solo. At least that's been my subjective experience. I definitely have found a good number of uniques in my engineer playthrough, but in this playthrough, and more so in another playthrough with Anthrosaurus, I have found just a ton of gold items that I can give to my other characters and improve their performance. Quite a few for this Berserker, actually, that I will be putting on in the videos to come that I found later on another character. So Frost Breath. It, as you see, does really, really poor damage out of the box. Just 15% of weapon damage. It freezes, it has a chance to immobilize, and it increases all damage taken by 20%, which is nice for a short period of time, and you can improve the range, and you can let it inherit your life and mana steal. Oh, and apologies that I didn't necessarily bring up the tooltip for a long enough time for you guys to read it, though I do explain it in the commentary. If you would like to read the tooltip in more detail, simply pause the video. That's generally why I don't bring those up for very long, because you can always just pause the video. So I'm now using this wolf charge thing, the Shadow Wolf charge thing, which it can only attack 2 enemies, actually, despite the fact that it looks like a gigantic charge. At least it can only lifesteal from 2 enemies. It might be able to attack larger numbers, but it can only lifesteal from 2 out of the box. I will bring up the tooltip eventually. And I wind up just pouring my points into that for the early levels because I like lifesteal. I just like an alternative means to generating health beyond potions. I do not like to be a slave to potions. In this class, at least in the early levels, is really a slave to healing potions, to the point that I wind up just spending all my money on it. At least, again, in Elite. This is Elite difficulty. Enemies hit harder, they have more health. And, yeah. But Anthrosaurus is playing an Outlander. She is focusing on Rapid Fire, a Tier 1 skill. The skill that they actually start with. Basically, it's just kind of like shooting a flaming, exploding machine gun deal. She likes it quite a bit. Eventually she specs into Shadowlings and into passives. The Outlander passives are quite good. All the passives in the game really are quite good. And generally all of them are rather interesting. Some more than others, but they did a good job, in my opinion, with passives in this game. So we're going to grab kind of a mini quest right here. I just leveled up. Level 4. I'm using the Hawk pet, by the way, named in Blood. Borderlands 2 homage. Here's the unique I found. Its stats, again, pause the game if you'd like to see it in more detail. It was a rather good unique staff that I'll probably be tossing over to my Ember Mage eventually when I get around to that playthrough. So as you may have noticed, I am now... Oh, a bunch of enemies here. It was a trapped chest, a bunch of skeletons spawned, and a wall actually appeared to prevent us from leaving this area, but not a big deal. I am now just releasing videos on a daily basis. Rather than releasing a bunch of videos once or twice a week, I am just releasing a couple every day, which is nice. It's less stressful for me because I can just kind of schedule it, get it all good to go, and then just start playing again and making more videos, and I kind of just get ahead of the work, and it's less stressful, really, basically. And I thought it would probably be nicer for you guys just to have something to look forward to every day, rather than, again, just like once a week, twice a week maybe, on a good week. Because you can't really watch 10 videos in a day anyway, so maybe better for just 1 a day, 2 a day, something like that. So tell me what you think about that in the comments or in a PM or whatever, it doesn't really matter. I hate shielded guys. It's rather annoying. The life-stealing wolf charge thingy actually has a chance to break shields, so just flat out break them. We are going to go down to the Crypt. This is where you face... I think he's like the Guardian or something. It's the gigantic skeleton. Things get actually rather dicey further down in here when we start encountering champions. But this Crypt will take us to the end of the video. About 10 minutes or so, a little less. As you may have noticed, I am now dual-wielding axes. I found an upgrade over the two-hander or Anthrosaurus. Another nice thing about playing with more than one person is you each get your own loot. Well, each get your own loot. If you aren't douches to each other, that means you just share everything. If I find an upgrade for her, I give it to her. If she finds an upgrade for me, she gives it to me, which is just double the loot, which is phenomenal. And everybody gets their own loot. We're not competing for loot. It's just I don't even see her loot that drops. She doesn't see mine. We just each get our own loot. There's actually a weird bug with this game where, for some reason, normally items, their names just hover over the ground if there's gold, if there's a unique, a rare, or whatever. For some reason, hers wasn't appearing that way. I just died to an archer. Unfortunate. And it wasn't because we had it turned off. Made sure of that. It just wasn't appearing. So, weird bug. I have encountered... I think I've encountered more bugs than that, but that was definitely the most obvious one. I also had difficulties connecting to, or actually hosting a game at first. It just would fail to connect. It would, or rather, when she was trying to connect, it would fail to connect. But I was able to connect to her. I thought maybe I had to do port forwarding, but the next time I played, I was able to host a game. So I don't know. I don't know what that was about. Rather annoying. I would like to play with you guys eventually, so if I'm able to do that, I absolutely need to be able to host a game. Apologies if my voice sounds a little wonky. I just woke up. It's always going to sound a little bit like I'm sick right when I wake up in the morning, but I wanted to just get right to work today. That was a convenient level. So I still do really enjoy this game. I find it a lot of fun. I will be going back to my engineer today, actually, and getting more footage for him, trying to catch up with all the Borderlands footage I've gotten recently. I have beaten Borderlands as of this video on my Commando, so I have videos all the way up to that point. So here is Shadow Burst. It is a charge. It does electric damage, a small amount of weapon damage, like a third is electric damage. You can hit large groups of enemies with it, but you can only steal health from 2 to start. That eventually goes up. Its chance to break shields eventually when you're at tier 3 is 100%. And its lifesteal goes up as you put points into it. Actually, a rather good skill. My favorite thus far of the Berserker. At least for my just go-to damage skill. We are now facing a champion, dividing, and he's one of the dividing, slow, powerful zombies. So this takes quite a while, was rather unfortunate. Antisource is over in the corner, killing her own zombies. This was, I believe, our first champion. So, it was her first champion ever. So it's just kind of explaining how this all works, what to expect. I still don't know what cannot be interrupted means. I think it's its own kind of status effect, because I know that they can still be knocked back, they can still be stunned. But, and I think two-handers have an automatic chance to interrupt, but I don't know what it actually does. I don't know if it just kind of staggers them, how it's different from a stun or a knockback. Maybe somebody out there can tell me. I'm sure I'll find out eventually. Also, those red rings, or whatever you'd call them, are from Anthrosaurus's rapid fire, and it reduces their armor, so they take more damage, basically. We finally whittled them down to just the primary unique, who also resists poison randomly. He is dividing those, this is going to take a while. I actually ran out of potions, but I knew I had something in my inventory. The next tier. Enemies have a lot of health on Elite. I do actually like Elite, though. It is challenging, as I said before, without being asinine. The pacing isn't terrible. It's fine to occasionally just have to take a while to kill an enemy. That doesn't really matter. It's not a big deal for me, at least. Retribution 1. I think I actually picked that up and then forget it's in my spellbook, because I don't think I don't know what that does. I don't think I ever learned it. Probably some reciprocal damage or something. So here is an unfortunate situation. We're facing this champion caster unique. And, yeah, and I sent my dog to town, or whatever he is, my bird, rather, my hawk, to get potions. And there is the actual boss of the entire area. So we have stack spawns here. We have the boss, whose shockwave things do a ton of damage. And keep in mind, this is Anthrosaurus' just her second champion ever, much less in her first real boss. Not only that, but there's a million shield adds and the caster unique summons skeletons with shields. So this is a tough one. This is a long fight. Rather unfortunate. The ground sword thing, it does a ton of damage. I think he's also dividing. I definitely just saw what looked like a dividing thing. I don't know. Oh, you know what it was? I guess some Nashers came out of a corpse. There's also a Nasher among them who's kicking other Nashers out of corpses. Charge attack doesn't do great damage out of the box. It's only doing like 35% maybe of weapon damage, which is pretty poor. I mean, I'm doing considerably less damage with that than just my auto attack, but I'm doing it generally against very large groups of enemies, and I like it more so because of just the lifesteal than anything else. It's just nice to have it. So surprisingly, no deaths yet. I have not died yet despite being melee, and Anthosaurus is definitely holding her own. This is, again, just her second unique and her first real boss, and she has not died. She is doing a good job of just staying awake, hiding, and not getting swarmed by skeletons, but we are getting close. Oh, I think she finally just died. Finally died. I knew it was going to happen eventually. I believe we both die more than once near the end here. No big deal. You just lose a little bit of money and you spawn right at the door. I also didn't know at the time, but Waypoint Scrolls, just like in Diablo 3, if you have a Waypoint Scroll, you can just click on it and go directly to a party member. So you don't have to actually like go to town or anything to portal to a party member, which is nice. The portal system in this game, and yeah, there I go. I knew I was going to die eventually. The portal system in this game is good. You can just create your own waypoint, go wherever you want from that waypoint. And it's just another little bit of convenience. It's not a huge deal, but it's just convenience. The pet, the Waypoint Scrolls, only IDing rares, certain rares, and even then you don't actually necessarily have to ID them, because if you have a bunch of unidentified stuff in your inventory, be it rares or uniques or whatever, it just automatically gets identified. It's another little bit of convenience. Rather, it gets identified when you level up. I also didn't realize that the caster was summoning skeletons until near the end here. I figured I was really suspicious for quite a while, but it was hard for me to just see what he was doing. I think he just summoned them right there. And they're the shielded guys, so they're particularly annoying to kill. Neither of us really do good damage against shields yet. I do have the ability to just kind of break them, but it's just a 25% chance with my shadow charge thing. I think Anthosaurus just died a second time. All of those Anthosauruses entered the area, by the way. Those are not all deaths for this fight. That's all the time she's entered the area throughout the length of this session. Just to clarify. But this is about done. We are about to kill the caster in just a second. I think I'm going to get one shot pretty soon by... I mean, I'm out of potions for one thing. I think I get killed by the blade guy, big sword man. But this was an unfortunate combination for second champion and first boss in the game, and being the level that we are. For the skeleton guy, I finally killed him, took him down. So we don't have to worry about the shield dudes anymore. That was really the main thing. The cast of the skeleton guy weren't really a problem. It was just all the guys he was summoning were rather annoying. But this is about over, guys. So thanks for watching. Oh, and as I said, I got basically one shot. Thanks, guys, for watching. Stay tuned for more. Please like the video if you liked it. Please sub if you'd like to see more. Leave comments and feedback. Ask questions, and I'll get back to you. Die. That was me saying for the skeleton guy to die, not for you to die. If there was confusion, have a good one.